and open up our work meeting for the proposed emergency building. If we go around the room and introduce ourselves, you want to start, Keith?
Keith Van Setten, Sheriff Coroner.
Melissa Moyer, Teton County Health Department.
Sam Carlson, Commissioner.
Dick Snellman, Commissioner.
Joe Dellwo, Commissioner.
Deb Coverdale, Teton County EMS and DES.
Ken Bassman, Show Ambulance and Search and Rescue.
Paula Giaconetti, Clerk and Recorder.
Melody Martinson, Shoto of Tampa.
And welcome to everybody. We can go through what our proposal is, and then so everybody kind of has an idea. We have a preliminary map drawn. There's a piece of land just south of the sheriff's office and east of the alley. The building that we're looking at is 150 by 80. And part of the reason for this is Melissa, or the health department's up at the hospital, but since COVID, she's run out of office space, and we don't own that building. The county doesn't. Keith is relying on the funeral home for a morgue, which it's just sold, and I'm sure that those people will, continue to do that, but it causes Keith to run different directions too. And search and rescue at this point doesn't really have a place to store a lot of their equipment. The EMS, the ambulance barn, from all the information, is the last one in Shoto to be upgraded or to improve it. And where it's at, it's behind the hospital, where this one would be open to the south. That's the recommended route, so that they could be on the highway instead of going through town to get there and to leave. This is, like I say, is just preliminary as far as the drawing, but we wanted to get all the agencies and departments that are involved to make sure that there's adequate room and get your suggestions.
The only thing I might add is the Emergency Operations Center.
Yeah.
That's a big component of this because the current Emergency Operations Center for Shoto, which is our primary, is inadequate if we ever needed to open up an EOC. So our secondary one is in Fairfield, but this one will have the capacity to open up.
Sure, and that would
sufficient.
Not only for EMS, but search and rescue.
This is countywide,
yes.
The Emergency Operations Center. In the event that we have some sort of disaster, we potentially would need to open up our Emergency Operations Center, and that would be a building that would be sufficient for that.
Correct. The other item that we have as a county is a lack of storage, because by laws, all of the information that each department has to be kept for a certain length of time. So the other thing that we're proposing is that the walls be 18 feet so that ceilings can be put in, and then storage up above, and there should be adequate for most everybody. Where the monies have come from is there's monies from when COVID was here. When it first started, we could spend it on water, sewer, and broadband. Three Rivers takes care of all the broadband. The county does not have water and sewer projects. The cities do. When the COVID monies came through the state that went to the counties, we dispersed that money for water and sewer to the 4 large communities. They've changed the rules where the monies that we've received can be used for emergency facilities. And it's either that or we send it back. If we can build this with those funds, there's no increase to the taxpayers, and we're able to upgrade the buildings that and the housing that needs to be done. So we hung the preliminary map up there. We can kind of, I'll just get up there. This would be the north and right behind the sheriff's office. So that we have a sheriff's bay and the morgue on the east side. It's just a preliminary, it's not in stone. This section would be the health department. And whether there's enough offices there or not, we've
We'll talk
also,
about that, yeah.
we've also talked about putting in, for mental health. Okay? This, and there again, this is rough for Ben but search and rescue along the east side. On the very south end, the EMS for ambulances. And then having office space. This part would be for meetings, elections. There's a multitude of things that we can use it for. And with these monies, we're not taxing the taxpayers, and who knows how the economy's gonna go, so we might even have a, not a food bank, but a soup kitchen if we have to.
Where that's set now, how much space between the existing sheriff's office and the building is proposed?
Well, we got some pins here. Because the sheriff's office is pretty much on the edge of the annex, right? I mean, on the north side.
Yeah.
Okay, so there should be somebody with a little better eyes.
I think when we talked earlier, we talked about putting it as far south as we could to save you
Yeah.
some space and then
That
have you
would be
fencing that.
appreciated,
Yeah.
because who knows down the road, maybe out in there, it's no fun.
Right.
I don't plan on doing it, but at some point in time, it would be in the county's best interest to do that.
I think the only thing out in front of the ambulances, it need to have enough of an apron
Apron
before it hits
goes on
into
Second
that street.
Street,
Yeah, but beyond that, if we figure out what that amount is, that's about all you need, but you do need some space.
Yes, yes.
Yeah,
And here's the survey maps. That one has the pins located in, Morris Engineering or Surveying. They went and marked them over there so we know. The other thing is that area will be raised with gravel
This is second right here.
so that we can try stay out of the floodplain totally.
I know when we walked out there and measured it, there was quite a bit of space.
Yeah.
Even for that telephone
There's quite a
pole
bit
as
of
it's
room.
existing, it's still south of that.
Yeah,
A ways.
that'd be plenty of
This
room.
is the alley.
Because we wanted to make sure that there was plenty of space left
I'm
there.
sure there is.
This might be search and rescue.
Mhm. Yeah, pretty basic.
Yeah, it's the
Okay.
page here.
Well, that'll south end.
Yeah, I thought it was gonna be down here on this side.
South end.
Oh, this is-
Um,
oh, this- okay, all right, got it.
so, can I just ask about
Mhm.
parking and traffic flow through there?
Okay, the area on the west side of the alley
Yep,
to the fence
okay.
will all be parking.
So that would be behind the annex, basically.
On the,
South of the
yeah,
annex.
south of the annex,
Yeah.
and it'll be west of
And
this
west of
building.
Okay.
And there'd be plenty of room.
And potentially creating a new, we got a lot of small children
Sure.
running around, and I just wanna make sure we're not walking through the flow of ambulance traffic.
So we should be
No.
going straight out to the south, and if we go to the right, we're gonna hit right on the highway, and if we go to the left, we can come back around,
On
right
this
along
side
their
of my
tracks
office.
and come out theirs.
Yeah.
Potentially not going through that alley by the health department at all, cause that's too big of a cluster
Is
right
there
there.
Consideration needs, or is there a need for consideration to have a handicap parking somewhere close by?
I definitely think we would, I mean,
Well,
we,
We have,
There was a voice
That's
there.
by
we
law.
have to.
We
You
have
have to
to
have
Yeah.
designated
By law.
handicap parking spots.
And if
Yeah.
I remember right, there's also enough space that you could potentially pull straight up to that, like straight up to your front door with enough space between the
Right.
building and basically that alley there for maybe one row of
on the
parking
wall
right
side.
there, which wouldn't be necessarily for staff, but would be for your customers.
And we also had talked about removing the power poles.
Yeah,
Yeah,
That needs to happen.
and that would make sense.
That would be wise.
yeah.
And you
You
have-
said that was 15,000?
Yeah, I think he
About-
quoted me 15,000 a couple years ago, so, yeah. And that was
Would
to
you
spread it
anticipate
out.
having a need for a bigger door than a walk-in door? I mean, do you move big things around or anything?
not necessarily.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't,
This is showing a double.
Don't-
right,
Yeah.
that is actually a double door, at least.
And then
Right,
it showed a
yeah.
door there would be to the north for like you guys to go in that wasn't your
Right,
front
I
door
see
so you
that.
could bring people in.
Exactly, yeah.
Not necessarily through your main door.
Yeah,
Or the double doors anymore that they make, you can take that center out like here,
Right,
Yeah.
right.
so that you can
You
get,
could-
if you had to bring something.
you can back
back.
something right up to it, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And the other reason that we're wanting the input is it's gonna be a concrete floor, but we wanna put everything in the floor that we can think we'll ever need. So that, I mean, plumbing, wiring, whatever, that water lines,
Floor drains.
yes.
I'm assuming there'll be if we go up 4 feet to get out of the floodplain, you're gonna need ramps to get into those doors, I'm assuming, not steps.
I don't think it's 4 feet,
No.
I think
It's
it's
not.
2 feet.
Oh, it's only 2 feet?
By the time, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, we might start with 3 and then it'll settle and pack.
Cause
and-
to get in those, I don't know about your door, but definitely to get into that EOC, you're gonna need something beyond just steps to get handicapped people in
Yeah.
there.
Oh, right,
It's all gonna be
yeah.
handicap accessible.
Yeah,
Mhm.
So in conversations, I think that we could add 2 more offices into that health department section. If we move the lab, twist it around so it sticks out into the EOC,
yeah.
and then put storage along the north wall of the EOC, it would take about 10 feet off of that, but it'd still be a very large room.
Oh, yeah, there's plenty of room.
And if we turned the lab 90 degrees, then we could put an office next to it. And then if we had storage along that wall, the storage,
This lab, and then just turning it and bringing it over here.
Okay.
And then,
then have storage
And
along
then
that
having
wall.
storage along.
Yeah.
That would allow us to have an office there, and then instead of having your storage room where it is on that could be another
Like
office.
shared. Okay, yeah.
I just,
Yeah, I think that would, I mean, yes, I think more offices is great. I've had a lot of discussions with my staff, and basically everybody is dealing with protected health information on a pretty regular basis. And so private offices, even if they're a little smaller, private offices is pretty essential for us.
Right, as it is now, you've got 6 offices.
Yes.
so
which-
that would bring it up to 8.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Sure.
And would give some room for potential expansion were we to take on other programs, or like you mentioned, co-locating with mental health or something like that, which I think is a wonderful idea. Yeah. And honestly, I think if there was gonna be storage up above, I mean, we have a lot of storage, but it's lab supplies and it's paperwork. And so, I mean, yeah, I suppose we'd need some sort of a storage room down below, but it doesn't have to be a huge one necessarily if we can store things up above.
Well, and the other need for storage in the EOC is when we built the annex, that storage in that big room is not nearly what it needed to be.
No,
Mm-hmm.
no.
Non-existent.
There's a little tiny closet that's got like 4 tables and 10 chairs.
Right, yeah.
So
Yeah.
we thought to have more storage than you need would be a good thing in the
Mhm.
north side of that room.
Yeah.
Well, once it's built out, assuming we needed to change something, it's relatively easy to move interior walls. That's a question.
Well, I don't know about, I mean, there's gonna be, most of the walls will be ceiling high because we'll need to have support for the ceiling above and storage up above. So some of that might not be able to move, but it's not saying that we couldn't have dividers, to make a room smaller, or we even thought about dividers for the big room, just like up at the hotel.
I think the only
Yeah.
thing to consider, especially in that room with the size, is figuring out the best way to have the best acoustics.
Yeah.
And keep that in consideration
Right.
at the forefront.
The other question that came up was the need for possibly a second entrance for flow, like for elections and
Mhm.
stuff.
Yep.
So add the
Right.
storage on that north wall and then have another entrance on the northwest corner of that room.
That's a good
And
idea.
that storage by the other deal is,
We'd get rid of that,
yeah,
right?
get rid of that.
Yeah, I think that would be, I mean, I could picture us even potentially using that space for mass immunization
Yeah.
clinics and having
Have a
multiple
flow,
ways.
so you could have a flow.
Would be great.
The other thing that came up was with the in-floor heating, the utilities room should be as close to the center of the building as possible.
Right.
So we may move the utility room down to where one of the bathrooms is on that drawing.
One thing that I know we've talked about in the health department is a lactation room for breastfeeding moms. I have a few in my office. But it could serve for the entire county. All county employees could potentially have a space like that, which would help meet those laws. And I think it doesn't have to be a very large space, but plumbing is helpful to have a hand washing sink in there. I think we would feel comfortable sharing the bathrooms that are out in the hallway here, rather than having one necessarily in the health department, if other departments were comfortable with that as well. I don't know what, in terms of having the doors locked and stuff. There's not so many of us.
If you've got 3 of them,
Yeah.
one should be available for that.
Well, I would
Yeah.
think so.
The other thing, Keith, in talking with Paula, she doesn't need election storage there, so there's that room on the west side of your morgue.
Okay.
Do you need like a sink and a shower and stuff?
But when we put this together, I allowed it, maybe, I guess that's probably a good idea, that's a good question, but, most of the sink and stuff that we would need would be right in that morgue portion of the building, of that room. There'll be countertop and a sink and be able to use that, but in an emergency situation, that shower might be important.
Which I think in 2 of the bathrooms we have showers, but you're right, having one access a little bit closer to you guys might be a better idea. I would like access from EMS side to have
We
access to that
don't
shower
have-
closer.
As coroners, we don't deal with, hazmat unless it's a spill on something that we brought in, That would be probably the only way, because we don't do any embalming, any of that stuff. It's all blood draws and whatnot, but on the same token, I guess the showers down the way would be okay,
Okay.
Melissa, even with yours in a space that big, you might be able to have a little bit of a bathroom right in your lactating room too.
Yeah, I
Or at
think
least a sink.
right, plumbing would be important for the sink. I think actually the law states that it cannot be a bathroom.
Yeah.
So we could not have a toilet in there, but. We could have a diaper changing station though.
Yeah.
Now, are you going to need a cooler?
Yeah, so-
Anything different than?
Right, so we have currently a full-size refrigerator for vaccine storage and a small freezer unit. If space allowed, it would be great to get a full-size refrigerator and freezer to have both available. Right now, those are in our lab, which is probably the most appropriate place to put them because it's easy access then for.
And it's secure.
Yeah, exactly.
So are those yours?
Mhm.
Okay, so
Yeah.
I mean, they could be
They
moved
could
down
be moved
here.
over, absolutely. Yeah.
Okay,
I think the other thing we need to look at is the backup generator, because I think you for surely have to have
Sure.
a backup generator, and we've been told multiple ways, right or wrong, that yes, the sheriff's office one would work, no it won't, but I think we have to have it totally separate, wouldn't you
It's not
think?
quite big enough to do the annex and my office.
Yeah,
at the
and that's
same
a,
time, so,
Renteria tells us different, so I think for
Right.
surely we need something
yeah.
that is gonna have a backup generator.
My understanding is that the county owns the backup generator that the health department is on right now. It's shared with the hospital, but I believe that was purchased by the county.
Because we would like to move
It's
our
good to know.
our app information, like there's one computer system in Steve's office and one computer system in my office. Those right now, if the electricity goes out and the generator doesn't get kicked on, we're out.
sure.
So we would like to move those potentially over, at least the EMS one over into that office so that it's on a backup generator that automatically flips on and we don't have to be concerned
And
with
there
that.
is your office in.
Yes, it
Yeah.
would go in that office, yeah. So, but, yeah.
So the other thing that was mentioned, Keith, is your cooling. You'll have to look into that.
Mhm.
Your cooling system and a ventilation system.
Yeah.
As time goes on, we'll have to get that kind of nailed down.
Are you guys still considering putting the maintenance over there, or is he gonna be in that other building still? Cause there is a garage space for that, but
Well,
if we don't need him in there,
The thought is to put him in there, and maybe we could get rid of that building and
okay,
have that for.
Right.
all parking.
That building should
Parking
probably
space.
go.
okay,
Well, in the
Would give us a
line of
lot
sight,
more-
those ambulances come
Yeah.
out.
It'd
Yeah,
give us
okay.
a lot more parking too.
Yeah, and it would help the line of sight when you go on the highway.
absolutely,
Right.
yeah,
Get that building
Yeah.
out of there.
yep.
And the building is not in real good shape.
Not
At some
really.
point, it's gonna fall down.
Yeah.
Like the ambulance station.
I hope we don't get an earthquake.
I don't know that that building's in even good enough shape to be moved.
I'm not
I
sure.
mean, I think
either.
if you tried to
There's a
move it,
lot
it'd
of
probably fall in half.
There's a lot of rot around the
Yeah.
base of it.
Right.
But if we get that building moved and get the power poles out of there, it should be pretty wide open space.
Mm-hmm. It'd be real nice to have that power pole gone, you know. And that's doable, so.
So we talked with Mayor Hindoin about it, and he said on the setbacks and everything, he wanted us to talk to Tom. He's kind of the guy that handles that, and we haven't talked to Tom yet, but we will get with Tom and see what the permit, we'll have to have permits for everything, of course. It's gonna be a fairly
Oh, yeah.
expensive deal.
Joe, will Staley Engineering be able to do this under its contract? Or will
Yes.
Thank you.
Yep, I talked to Kathy Thompson when I was down at Mako, and she introduced me to a guy in Helena. I believe his name is Clint. I'm probably not right on that, but she does bridges, so it
Yeah.
wouldn't be Kathy Thompson. It would be another one, but it's covered under our contract with him. So Staley will be handling that part.
Because I think they'll get all your permits.
Yep, they'll handle all the.
Yeah.
And it's a pretty extensive deal because when we did the annex and the road shop, there was a lot of stuff to cover.
And that was an existing building.
The annex was, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And with this building, we're assuming and we're trying to, it'll be a metal building, So the engineering should be done by the company for this.
Yeah, it should be
For strength,
pre-engineered,
yeah.
All
yeah.
that
Right.
pre-engineered.
Yeah.
Engineered steel building. So on our acoustic question, Deb, do you think that EOC should have a ceiling all the way across it?
I think it's something to consider, yes. Because even like the facility in Fairfield, the acoustics are horrible in there. And it's wide open like that. So either we gotta put panels in there or we gotta put.
I don't know that.
I think some deadening panels
Or
that actually
panels.
work pretty good,
Yeah.
you know. Yeah.
When we did the annex and realized we had a problem, we first
Yeah.
went out to bids for acoustic panels,
Mhm.
$40,000.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
It was $20,000 cheaper to put ceilings on every office in there than to.
And I think
Oh,
maybe
really?
that's
Okay.
something the
Horrible.
engineering company,
yeah.
or, you know what I mean, we can talk to somebody that maybe knows more than I
Yeah,
do,
that
but I
was
just,
the
Yeah, well,
question.
that's
yeah.
something, you get 75 people in there and it's,
Mm-hmm.
These walls here will go all the way
Yep.
up to the ceiling,
yep, and,
or
so-
to the roof, I should say,
yep,
and so will this one.
but so should that
And
one.
This one,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah. Because ideally, the whole point behind all those is everybody can act kind of, or be independent of somebody else,
Right.
where if there's
Right.
something going on, then it's not a disruption for you guys.
That's a must.
Because, yeah, those people that are right, and I like the idea of the storage there because maybe that'll put a barrier between the main room and your guys' office.
Mm-hmm.
So when they build for the ambulance and the search and rescue and the maintenance, that wall, I mean, they'll make it so that you don't get the diesel smells or the
Yep.
exhaust.
Yeah.
Everything's
Go
got to
all the way
go
to the
clear to the
top.
ceiling.
Oh,
So they'll
yeah.
have to be really,
Is there ventilation put in the Fairfield barn?
No, no, and it probably wouldn't be a bad idea to put, if you're starting from scratch, you put something in this one.
I think
Those
probably
trucks.
for code, it'll have to be when we built the road shop.
It's gonna have to
It
be
was a pretty
ventilated out.
expensive system to, it
Yeah.
had ventilation in it.
Yeah.
And Deb, or how many vehicles then would you guys house for EMS?
There would be three bays.
Okay. And I understand health department would be moving lock, stock, and barrel. Would there be then anybody else permanently moving from any other place or just health department?
Other than the EMS will have an office there.
But there won't be anybody that,
Right.
My
It'll be
office
just kind of
won't
like
move
the
it, yeah.
office that's in the
Yeah,
existing
satellite,
ambulance barn.
yeah, we technically need a place that we can lock up, reports and that kind of stuff. So we would have to have some sort of office to store some of that temporarily.
So Melissa, if you ended up with 8 offices, would you use them all?
We'd be using 7.
7?
Yeah.
Because the discussion has been in the past that we could use another mental health office in town, so
Yeah.
that's kind of why we came up with 8.
I think that's a great idea. I
Maybe
think
nice to have that
just, this
there.
is sort of a minor thing, but if you are looking at layout, there's one little office sitting here that's no exterior wall, and it's hard to spend 8 hours a day in a room with no windows. So if it's possible to,
Good point, yeah.
put the offices in rooms where there can be windows. appreciate it.
Joe's, or Sam's a good artist, he could draw.
Yeah, just
Draw a little painted window in there.
You'll come in and change it this
I've
evening.
changed it weekly, yeah.
So there would be 3 offices along that row with no
That's a very
exterior
good
walls.
point, because
Yeah.
I know windows are important.
So you can use that as a reward system as a.
You could just skylight straight up out.
I mean, that would honestly help, but
Covered with
into the
snow.
story.
Yeah.
Right, yeah.
That might be tough because
I was
there's
gonna say,
no
that
way
would
to
be
move
really
that.
hard
There's no
help
way to
if
move
you
That's a
those
really
Yeah.
good point, wouldn't have thought
to
of
an
that.
exterior
Uh,
wall.
I guess the one thing you could do is maybe juggle storage
Right.
Mhm.
Yeah.
up in that corner.
Right, yeah.
You have to, so there's that stairway that's right next to the sheriff's bay, someplace you have to have that fairly open and accessible, and that could be turned another way too. But you're gonna have to have your stairway to get upstairs fairly accessible with, I mean, most people that are lugging stuff up there, it's pretty big boxes of files.
Sure.
So,
Well, those 2 storage deals could be
You know,
moved along the north wall and give to
getting
health
to the wall might
department.
be a challenge, though.
But if we had storage in that big room, the 2 storage rooms could go away and you could have the,
one of those was for the sheriff's office.
right, but that one right on the west side of the morgue is, the elections storage isn't gonna be needed. Keith could use
You
that.
don't need that for all
We
your-
could spin those
With-
2
with all
storage
the
units and
fraud
make
all
2
the
offices
controversy,
there.
It has to be secure. So
Yeah,
you have to
I don't
log
see where that would be an
everything
issue.
over
Cause
there.
that
We
would
just
be
use your
outside
tables.
walls for
All
2
the
more
machines
offices.
and all the stuff has to be stored.
Cause that's a
here.
good point, Melissa.
Really? Not even in a locked room. That's
No,
not
because
secure
it's-
enough.
I would have to have video cameras in there. I
That's
would
not a bad
have-
idea, anyways.
I would have to have, oh God, another naysayer.
Yeah.
There is one thing I'm working on right now with the elections is to changing the lock systems in the courthouse to keep, like Keith, you just show your, to get in because then it logs who
It logs
went in
who's
at
in
what
and out.
time. That might be something to think about when you're doing that building right off the bat.
Yeah.
With you, when you have such high security, I mean, you've
not
got the health
right.
department, you've got coroner, which could have bodies. You have the ambulance, you have drugs, you have, I would, when you do it, to think of something like that, that
Sure.
locks
I
it
think
in.
that's a good idea because we have things that basically some of our stuff has to be under like 2 different locks. So it's in a locked box, but then it's got to be behind a locked
Yeah.
door and
Yeah.
that type of stuff. And I think it's very important to be able to know the access that,
Well, and
that
when I
takes
was talking
place.
to them, they also said that, you know, you give a key out when you used or something for that, whatever, what's your chances of getting that key back?
Yeah.
This way, you give them that, you just disable it, you give them for a certain time, and it's disabled.
Okay.
And then it can be set to where, you know, this person can use these rooms,
Yep.
this room, if they said we only need that for 4 hours, they're $5 or something, he said.
Okay.
And if they don't turn it in, it's, you know, you're hoping they're turning
It's-
it in.
Yeah, but.
But then it's
But
kind of
it
like a
just
motel
is-
key. It shuts off
it
at a
just is
certain
done.
time.
Mhm.
Mhm.
It's not a bad idea.
Search and rescue hasn't said much yet.
No.
There's a whole lot more space than we have now. Wonder what
All outdoors,
Go
there's
ahead.
all kinds of room for it.
Yeah.
right.
It's warm and dry.
Yeah, no.
Now, if we get some of the vehicles inside and then some storage, that's what we need.
Okay, yeah.
Well, and there is a training room there that is kind of a smaller training room for EMS and search and rescue. I think we could share that room to where if there was something big, elections were going on, but we had a training, she doesn't have to pack everything up or whatever, put all the tables away. We can still do our training in that other room, and that's size wise. Or if the health department needs a smaller room
Yeah.
versus the big one, I can anticipate that large room is going to get utilized a lot.
Correct.
Knowing that hopefully in an emergency it's used as an emergency operations center,
Correct.
Right.
kind of as a predominant thing. Everything else goes aside, because I think that there's funding that can come through DES as
To help that.
to help that, just like it was at the other 2 locations. So
Right.
as long as that's what it's earmarked for.
And that's why we're having this, so that you guys can figure out what security you need so that it can be put into the plan before we start. It's always easier to draw it first and then try to change it.
So this is a miniature of the,
It is.
so should we get Deb to make copies of these and you guys could take them home for homework?
So
And just
one
think about
That'd
things
be a good
that,
idea.
okay.
Yeah.
And then, because I can probably take this back to the same CAD system that
The
wrote it
CAD
up,
kit.
unless the CAD kit, unless you want Staley to start more of a
Well, I think
confirmed one.
for right now, if everybody just had one of these, you know, and if they can add things, and then at the next time that we meet, you know, because certainly there's going to be
Homework.
things,
People are
yeah,
gonna think of things.
Okay.
that you don't think of right today that, you know, go
Okay.
bingo.
Did you wanna make the changes, I can make copies of those.
Well, maybe just make copies of this one, and then everybody can just make the changes, and then
Right.
we'll come back and then take it back to the CAD kit.
To the cat.
Yeah.
Whoever that is.
The more changes we can make without having an engineer involved,
Right.
the cheaper
Okay.
it's gonna
Yeah, we
be.
can
So-
get it down to where we really.
One
can
thing
have
I
it.
don't know that this program is probably not 100% ADA compliant as far as we tried to do the best we could as what we understood as the rules for the sizes of doors, how they have to swing. You know, they got to swing a certain way.
Yep.
That's probably not
Right,
in
but
this
this is a
drawing,
long
but I
ways
think
from
they
being
sh-
an architectural drawing.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Because we took the best guess at how big our stairway needed to be
Right.
off of what we could find.
Yeah.
It might make sense to give the engineering guys a copy of this now, just to catch any glaring things that are not gonna work. Just a thought.
Mm-hmm.
But well, the other thing we're trying to do is, I mean, if we can get the building, put it out for bid and get the building ordered so that we know that it's,
2 years out.
we're gonna have
Yeah,
instead
I'm
of.
not sure, we're sure it's not gonna be a quick turnaround, but,
Right.
so at some point fairly soon, we could get the engineering firm involved in that,
Right.
at least get the building ordered.
Now, he might say something like, if it was 2 feet wider or 1 foot shorter,
Mm-hmm.
you
Sure,
know, you've got significant savings in
Yeah.
cost, because he probably understands that environment.
Yep.
right,
I mean, we kind of locked into 150 feet, but
yeah,
maybe 152 is better.
correct.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Here's your original.
Oh, thank you.
And I can make more if you guys want more.
I'm gonna take one to draw on and one not to draw on. It is the same one, yeah. So I know one of the things we wanted to do
You
was
want a couple of
extend,
them?
turn the lab,
Yeah.
I didn't take one.
extend that out. So size-wise
Could
for
be
that
3 or 4
lab,
there.
is that how big you want that, 11 by 18? Or can you,
You know, I honestly don't know the dimensions
Okay.
of our current lab, and I would want to probably compare to that.
okay,
I certainly wouldn't want to go any smaller than the lab that we
okay,
have right now.
okay.
And
And-
even if you don't have all the, equipment that, you know, eventually you would like, if we can figure out if we need plug-ins
Yeah,
and drains or whatever,
Yep.
so that we can have them installed as it's being built.
So are you thinking, Keith, that maybe move a bathroom down to where that election storage is?
Well, that or I was just thinking that as far as making another office that's exterior to the building for Melissa, take that storage on the north end
Mm-hmm,
and turn that into an office, and then revamp the existing storage for the county health nurse. So to give access to that office, and then maybe exchange the stairs for the storage, just right next to each other. And then we can make that storage and the election storage enough for everything I need.
okay. Cause I wouldn't be opposed to think that we possibly could use another bathroom. I know when we go to, in having 4 bathrooms, cause I know like when we have 40 people at the EMS station in Fairfield, our bathrooms, it's an absolute waiting line, and that's 2 bathrooms where I could see if this is used a lot more, maybe having 4 bathrooms and having one closer down to you guys, Melissa, that isn't quite so
That
far
would-
down at the other end.
That would
And
be
then
fine.
maybe that one was maybe not necessarily a bathroom for the EOC and for the public. It's a bathroom that's maybe more for health department and law enforcement down at that
Maybe
end.
take that election storage and make it a bathroom.
That's what I was wondering. And then you could have a door that goes into your room. You know, it had a double door. I don't necessarily like those unless you have like those
There's too much
keypads.
space.
Yeah, yeah.
It just, doors take up room.
They do, yeah.
Have it a
Okay.
non-gender bathroom.
They're all on there, I don't know. Which I think, I don't know, I think 2 of these had urinals in them and 1 didn't. But
Right.
I think it doesn't, we can figure that out. So if you could get me maybe what your lab,
Yep.
and then we could turn that, move some, would the lactation room need a window or that, so that one could maybe just in exchange for where that bathroom
That's
is?
kind of what I was thinking.
Okay. And then maybe even measure out your offices to see if these, you know, what the ideal size of your office would be.
Yeah.
Um,
Yep, I can definitely do that. I think we have, they're all a little different size, but, you know, currently like 10 by 11-ish. So this is about, these are, yeah, relatively equivalent.
so do you need much storage, Keith, then? Down below?
I think that
Or are you
one-
thinking,
Now, if I can use turn that where the stairway is
Yep.
down to storage, I'm thinking for most everything we need, that would probably be enough.
that would
I
be
guess I
enough?
don't know what makes a difference in that.
It's 9, well, the stairway is 9.5 by 4.1, and then the storage is 9.3 by, or yeah, I think they're both 9.5 by 3.6. So,
That might be a little tight. But if I could put cabinets around 3 sides of that morgue, that would probably take care of all my stuff.
What if you just did something like this, and we put a door here to go into this as an
Mhm.
office and just a door here? So, I guess that would, then just giving away my storage room, but.
yeah. yeah.
Hurry,
Yeah.
Sam, hurry.
But you thought you wouldn't necessarily need a storage room down there. You'd rather have an office.
Yeah, well, and I think if we were talking about adding more.
On this side.
On the other side,
Yep.
you know.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
Then there'd be cabinets and stuff, I think room for cabinets in the bay also for what I need for body bags
Okay.
and supplies.
Should be.
A whole lot more than what we got now, which is
Right.
in my building.
You and Ken are easy,
Yeah.
starting from 0.
Yeah, really.
Can you see anything that's a glaring error that we've missed?
So we want another double door going into the EOC, and I'm assuming you still want that door, an entrance. You would like an entrance
Into the health department?
into the health department that's just a side, like on the side, having 2 entrances like that. Is that
Yeah, I think, I mean,
One
yes.
goes right into an office.
Yeah.
It's through an office. I think for safety reasons, that's probably not a bad idea to have another entrance.
Okay.
I mean, we could always, go out the back through the EOC too, I suppose, if it was necessary. I don't know that that's, yeah, I don't, certainly wouldn't die on a hill over that door. It's probably not the most necessary thing, but
If you did have a mental health office in there, though, that could be a separate entrance for,
that's true, yeah.
they kind of value their privacy.
Mhm.
And they wouldn't interrupt anything that's going on in the health department if they use that door.
True enough.
Yeah.
So that
And
might be
and
a-
you could always move it to another office.
could
It wouldn't
be
have
any
to be,
office,
yeah,
really.
it wouldn't
Yeah.
necessarily
Yeah.
have to be to that
Yes,
office.
absolutely.
Okay.
But if you did move it, you wouldn't wanna take on one, you wouldn't wanna put mental health on the window side because she needs her windows for her staff. The mental health
Oh.
wouldn't be there.
That's true too.
Yeah, it would just
If you
depend
get
on.
mental, if we get any mental health in the centers, everything, they're not gonna be there full time.
Yeah.
So stick them on an interior office
There
with
you
no
go.
windows.
Yeah.
We'll let them worry about their mental health.
Yeah.
But I think honestly, I think having people walk into the health department would be okay.
not a
People
big
come into
deal.
the health
Yeah,
department
they
for
come
all
all the
kinds of
time.
different services, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, and when we had them utilizing the courthouse, we were concerned about that, and they found out that the clients were more willing to come into the courthouse because they didn't know whether they were licensing
They
their
might just-
vehicle or
Exactly, yeah.
talking to the
Yeah.
commissioners, so that turned out to be a non-issue.
Yeah.
Right.
It probably will be the same
If
case
they
there.
saw somebody coming in the side door, they would think, oh.
Right.
Yeah. What are they
That's the back
sneaking in
door.
the side door for? There's a lot of doors.
It's a lot of doors. That's a
A
whole
lot of lock and
doors.
key.
Yeah, no kidding.
$10,000 mark budget.
Yeah.
It's a big building.
Yeah.
Yes, it is.
The lady from Staley that I talked to did say if you designated a room for mental health, that there's a lot of state money for.
Yeah.
And she thought that we could probably get some funding for that.
We could easily look for, for funding for that. I honestly think we could probably, if we designate a room as a lactation room, I think we could find funding for that as well.
Yep, I bet you can.
Probably, yeah.
Well, everybody go home, do their homework, and we should meet again, huh?
Well, I think so, yeah. Yeah, hash this over and see if anything else pops into your mind.
Yeah, he went to college, but I think somebody else can. They saved the file, so it would just be going in, and I would like to try to do that. I'll probably call him this afternoon, and if I could meet with him maybe early next week and just go in and sit down with him and have him make the changes right there. So if everybody could get the stuff back to me before maybe the weekend, I'd try to maybe go in and have that done.
Okay.
And then come back with another plan, and I
Sure.
could probably email it out.
Have you
Thank you.
emailed, I don't know, we don't all have that software to.
Yeah, just like a screenshot of it, so you might be able to just, probably won't be able to see the actual,
Yeah.
how big they are, but I can do that also, or I'll just make a copy and bring it by.
Me and I can.
Yeah, okay. Okay.
The CAD kids are, these high school.
Yeah, so this is at the, yep, Fairfield High School drafting department.
We gotta set a date for another meeting?
We probably should. Well, how much time do you guys need?
I don't know much, I think we
See a week.
have already talked about.
Do it next Wednesday or Tuesday or Wednesday.
We probably could.
I think we're
You
good.
have to have to find out when the CAD.
Yeah, whenever I can meet that, but I still think, I would like to set a meeting just so that we have a deadline to try to hit too.
Does Wednesdays work?
Yeah.
I mean,
Just not the 22nd, because we have to go to the,
22nd.
yeah.
That'd be quite a bit.
Most of us are gone.
Yeah.
We have a Maple
HR meeting.
Well,
Helena.
maybe next
Yeah, it's
Wednesday
not-
then.
Next Wednesday?
The
That's the
15th?
15th.
15th?
The 15th. Does
Okay.
that work?
Same time?
If that works for
They have a
everybody.
CPR, I guess the CPR class is over there, so.
Yeah, over,
Is it
and it's
busy?
just in the morning, isn't it?
No, it's at
Oh.
1 o'clock.
We may
1
have
o'clock.
to, we may have to meet in the
Oh, no.
commissioner's office
Right,
because there's a
because
trial
we have a
next
trial
week.
Oh.
It may be here, but if the jury is in this room, then it'll be next door in the
But we got
commissioner's office.
enough room there for.
Could we do it in the morning? And then we could
Yeah,
do it
you
over
may
at the
be-
annex?
You may be
So I might not be available.
encumbered.
But
Could we do it in the morning?
I probably cannot.
Can't do morning? Okay.
I'll be upstairs.
Okay,
Board of Health at night, at
That
8.
date.
okay.
Yep.
Thursday?
Yeah, there's a Board of Health meeting that morning at 8 o'clock, but yeah, certainly after that.
Joe's gone on Thursday the 16th.
Okay,
In the morning,
In
8:30.
the morning.
I could do it Thursday afternoon, 16th, if that works for you.
1 o'clock?
Yeah,
1 o'clock?
1
Okay.
o'clock?
will you be back, Joe, by 1?
I hope so.
Okay.
Okay.
Then,
Alright.
I guess the other thing is we know there's gonna be questions and whatever, so that's why we wanted to let you all know where this money is coming from. And so then you can answer questions that people ask of you. Most of this money is, came out during COVID, and if it's not used for this purpose, it goes back.
Or we can buy road
So,
graders.
yeah, and then,
It's a good thing Alan's not here.
They already told him, yeah. No road graders.
he
He was
wasn't
harassing me
invited.
the other day.
No graders.
Said if we couldn't make up our mind, he would just
On
do
that,
it.
on that note, Mel, I have 510,000 on the hospital district.
Yeah.
1,193,983 from ARPA. And the LATCF was 467,312.
For a total of,
And then we put 200,000 into a fund for the coroner before. And we have 50,000 in EMS.
for a grand, what's your grand?
My grand total was 2,421,295.
421,295, okay. My math is just, it's terrible.
It might be
What
my
was the
math.
467 from?
LATCF.
Which is something.
Oh, I just tried the minutes. It's
Tribal
It's local.
and tribal consistency.
Huh?
I
Yeah,
just looked it up
One
on
thought.
two.
because when I did my minutes, I couldn't just put.
It's in my article.
It's a consistency fund, yeah.
But, yeah,
Doesn't make any
consistency.
sense, but-
Local government and tribal consistency fund.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's another government payment that we are happy to get.
200,000 for the coroner comes from Keith's capital.
Yep, we put that in Keith's
Year ago.
budget when we had the original COVID money.
And then the 50,000 from EMS, was that also COVID money?
That's built up, what's the history on that, Deb? It's built up over the years.
Yeah, it's just built up. It was just a building fund
We
that
were
we just
antici-
add.
Yeah, capital
Yeah,
improvements fund.
We were
Yeah.
anticipating she needed a new ambulance barn.
yeah. Finally, it won't be called an ambulance barn.
Emergency Services Building, right?
Yeah. Emergency services building.
Should write that down.
A one-stop shop.
Yeah, there you go.
Well, we certainly appreciate your participation and bring back your ideas, and we'll continue with this program.
Yeah, but you needed them before.
I would like them by Friday. I mean, I will reach out to them today and see what day we can meet next week, but I'm trying to leave it open so that if I can have the changes by Friday, then we
You can
can,
give it to them and they can get to us.
Yeah.
You get you guys new ones.
Yeah. if that works.
Sounds doable.
Gosh.
You need the magnifier.
I have one on my phone.
Which one is it?
The width of the ambulance bay doors.
I want to say they were 14 or 15 feet.
Yeah, it doesn't say on here.
On the ambulance? It should say on the
I
ambulance.
think it does. It's probably,
No, but not on the doors. I mean, it's got
It's all
the
jumbled kind of
room.
actually.
is 37.5 by 46. This one's 40 by 20, but
So I'm
it
guessing-
doesn't have the,
Those little numbers in front of the doors aren't?
Yeah, what are those right?
What are
I can't read them on here. They're just,
it's 12080.
1, 2, whatever that means.
Yeah,
okay, I can have them,
could be 12-foot doors, I mean,
Yeah. There's no way I can read them all.
Pardon?
We'd rather not rip the mirrors off.
Yeah, right.
Well, absolutely.
it's antennas, not mirrors. We're on what, number 4 antenna? I'll find out what it says on the master one, because I can't read it.
You guys have any more?
I don't. I think we're pretty well answered any questions I had.
Okay, any other questions? If not, we'll close our work
Be back
session.
again next week.
Thanks for coming.
Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you guys.
Okay.